हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू आवर न्यू सीरीज लर्न विथ अपस्टॉक्स। इस सीरीज में हम रेशियो एनालिसिस, इंडस्ट्री एनालिसिस, बैलेंस शीट एनालिसिस और कई सारे टॉपिक्स के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं। इन टुडेज वीडियो वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस हाउ टू एनालाइज द बैलेंस शीट। इस वीडियो के अंदर हम मेनली 4 टर्म्स के ऊपर फोकस करने वाले हैं। वो कौन कौन से होंगे? नंबर 1, वी आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज अ बैलेंस शीट। देन वी विल ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आर द वेरियस टर्म्स व्हिच आर प्रेजेंट इन द बैलेंस शीट. In the third part, we will try to understand what is the relationship between various terms present in the balance sheet. And at the end, I'm also going to tell you a bonus tip. So keep on watching till then. So let's understand what's a balance sheet. The balance sheet is a statement which shows the entity's assets and liabilities as at a particular point in time or in a single point in time. So let's understand the terms assets and liabilities with the help of an example also. First, the meaning. What is an asset? Anything I own is an asset and anything I owe is a liability. So I'll give you examples. For example, this studio, that's my asset. I own it, it's my asset. This camera, well, it's of the production team, but anyways, as an example, it's my asset, right? So for example, if I'm talking about a liability now, if I have borrowed 10 lakh rupees from the bank to build this studio, to construct this studio, this amount I owe to the bank, that is my liability, right? So the third concept, small concept, which came in this meaning was, what do we mean by as at a particular date? So assume that I'm saying balance sheet as at 31st March 2021, I own assets worth rupees 1 crore. Now what does that mean? Right from the day when I started my business till date, I have built assets worth rupees 1 crore. So that does not relate to a particular year, it relates to a big period starting from the day I started my business till date, and that's what I mean when I use the term as at. Now let's start and understand the various terms which are present inside the balance sheet. The very first one is share capital. Now what do we mean by share capital? An amount with which a businessman starts the business is nothing but share capital. So assume I started my business with 1 crore rupees. This 1 crore rupees is nothing but my share capital, right? The second term which comes up in the balance sheet is reserves and surplus. So assume that with the 1 lakh rupees or 1 crore rupees with which I started my business, assume that I was able to earn a profit of 20 lakh rupees. Now this 20 lakh rupees I can keep aside for some purpose, some general purpose, or it could also be for a specific purpose. This amount which I keep aside for certain future things, that is nothing but reserves and surplus. One more item which appears in the balance sheet, that is known as the non-current liabilities. Now what is a non-current liability? Any liability, any amount which I owe after 1 year, that is a non-current liability. So assume that I have issued a 10-year bond because the amount is payable after 1 year. In our example, 10 years, that will be an example of non-current liability. One more point which comes up is a current liability. You might have guessed what is a current liability now. Any amount which is payable within a time span of 1 year will be known as a current liability. A simple example of that can be working capital loan. I have to repay this within 1 year, and that's the reason why it will be called as a current liability. Moving on to the asset side now, there are 2 major aspects. One is a non-current asset and one is a current asset. Let's start with the current assets first. An asset which will give me money or which is expected to give me money within a year is known as a current asset. So a simple example can be stock. So assume that I do a business of selling t-shirts. Whatever inventory I have, I expect that I'll be able to sell off that inventory and get money within 1 year. So that is an example of a current asset. Whereas a non-current asset is one which is expected to fetch me money after a period of 1 year. Now let's try and understand the relationship between various terms which are present in the balance sheet. इसके अंदर भी कई सारे ratios आ सकते हैं. What we will do is we'll try to cover some important ratios. The very first one is a leverage ratio. और leverage ratio के अंदर अगर हम बात करेंगे तो debt to equity is one of the most famous ratios. By the way, debt to equity ratio हमने इसी चैनल पे हमारे एक previous वीडियो में कवर किया है, तो अगर आप चाहो तो वो जाके आप देख सकते हो. One more ratio which comes up is known as the return ratio. Return ratio में भी one of the famous return ratios is return on capital employed. इसके बारे में भी सेम चीज़ें हमने अगेन ये प्रीवियस वीडियो में कवर किया है, तो आप डेफिनेटली इसको भी बाद में चेक कर सकते हो। मूविंग ऑन विथ द थर्ड वन विच इज अ लिक्विडिटी रेशियो। अभी हमने कवर नहीं किया है तो इसी में पढ़ लेंगे। व्हाट इज अ लिक्विडिटी रेशियो? बेस्ट एग्जांपल इज अ करंट रेशियो। करंट रेशियो इज कैलकुलेटेड एज करंट एसेट्स डिवाइडेड बाय करंट लायबिलिटीज। अब बोलना नहीं है कि हमको ये पता नहीं है, बिकॉज आई जस्ट कवर्ड इट सम मिनट्स अगो। व्हाट इज करंट एसेट? एनीथिंग आई एम गोइंग टू रिसीव और मनी विच आई एम गोइंग टू रिसीव विद इन 1 year is a current asset. And what is a current liability? You remember, anything, any money which I owe within a period of 1 year was a current liability. In simple words, एक साल के अंदर मुझे कितना पैसा मिलने वाला है वर्सेस एक साल में मुझे कितना पैसा देना है, इस बीच का जो रेशियो होता है that is nothing but the current ratio. अब आप ही बोलो, अगर मुझे एक साल के अंदर 2000 रुपया आने का है एंड 1000 रुपया देने का है, so obviously the ratio will be what? 2:1. And if I say higher the better, would that be correct? Answer is obviously yes. And now the bonus tip. You have to understand that there are many footnotes which accompany the balance sheet, but this data is not present inside the balance sheet. Simple examples of that could be various accounting policies, or they also could be contingent liabilities. Now what are contingent liabilities? These are liabilities which the company has to pay if certain conditions are fulfilled. एग्जाम्पल क्या हो सकता है इसका? लेट्स से कोई लिटिगेशंस चालू है, कोई कोर्ट केसेस चालू है। अब कंपनी को ये पूरा पैसा तुरंत देना पड़ता है क्या? नहीं। कब देना पड़ेगा? अगर वो कोर्ट में केस हार गए तो। सो दिस अमाउंट जो पे शायद करना पड़ेगा वो बैलेंस शीट में नहीं आता है, दैट अपीयर्स एज एन ऑफ बैलेंस शीट आइटम। सो दैट्स व्हाई एज एन एनालिस्ट यू ऑल्सो शुड रीड दीज पॉइंट्स विच डोंट अपीयर इन द बैलेंस शीट. So thank you for watching this video on how to analyze the balance sheet from our Learn with Upstox series. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. If you have any questions regarding the video, do not forget to leave your comment in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so that any new video uploaded on this channel, you will be notified for the same.